I had been part of many operations before, but nothing like this one. As I stood on the edge of the Chernobyl exclusion zone, the sense of unease was palpable. This mission was different. My name is Viktor Lebedev, a Spetsnaz operative with years of service, yet the task before me was daunting. We were here to investigate an underground explosion deep beneath the Chernobyl exclusion zone. The objective was to uncover the cause of this explosion and assess any potential threats it might pose. I was tasked with documenting every aspect of the mission, a responsibility that weighed heavily on me. Our team was led by Captain Anna Sokolov, a woman of extraordinary resolve and experience. She had been a former FSB agent, and her expertise in hazardous environments made her the perfect leader for this mission. Her leadership was decisive, and her demeanor often cold, but in our line of work, that was a necessity. As we gathered for the final briefing, Captain Sokolov's voice was steady and firm, outlining the risks and objectives with precision. "We go in as one, we come out as one," she said, a mantra that would echo in my mind throughout the mission. The team consisted of 12 members, each bringing unique skills to the table. Lieutenant Sergei Kozlov, our demolitions expert, had a knack for finding humor even in the direst situations. I always found his dark humor strangely comforting, a reminder of the camaraderie that held us together. Corporal Yulia Zaitseva, the communications expert, was young but exceptionally skilled. Her sharp mind and quick reflexes made her invaluable. Dr. Pavel Novikov was our specialist in radiation and anomalies. His knowledge would be critical in navigating the unknown dangers we were about to face. Private Nikolai Morozov was the youngest in the group, known for his sharp vision, which would be crucial in the dark confines of the underground world we were about to enter. Sergeant Mikhail Ivanov, Corporal Andrei Petrov, and the rest of the team, including Private Olga Fedorova and Private Boris Kuznetsov, all had their roles and were essential parts of this mission. Each one of us understood the gravity of what lay ahead, but none could truly predict the horrors we would encounter. As we prepared our gear, the history of the Chernobyl exclusion zone loomed over us like a specter. The nuclear disaster of 1986 had left a scar on the land, a constant reminder of human folly and the power of the unseen. Now, decades later, this place was home to another mystery, something that defied explanation. The crack that had appeared after the underground explosion was said to pulse with an unnatural energy, a living entity waiting in the dark. The descent into the crack began with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Our flashlights pierced the darkness, revealing a world unlike any I had seen before. The cavern walls seemed to pulse as if the rock itself were alive. Shadows danced at the edges of our light, hinting at forms that should not exist. The air was thick with tension, and the silence was broken only by the sound of our breathing and the faint hum of the equipment. As we moved deeper, the environment grew stranger. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the walls, casting an eerie glow that seemed to shift and shimmer with our movements. Radiation levels fluctuated unpredictably, forcing us to rely on Dr. Novikov's expertise to navigate safely. His calm demeanor was reassuring, though I could see the perplexity in his eyes. This place defied the known laws of physics and biology, challenging everything we understood. The oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily on us, both physically and mentally. It was as though the cavern itself were a living entity, watching, waiting, testing us. Lieutenant Kozlov's jokes became more frequent, a defense mechanism against the fear we all felt creeping into our minds. Yet beneath the humor, I saw the same fear reflected in his eyes, a fear that could not be easily dispelled. In that underground world, time seemed to lose meaning. Hours felt like days, and the path ahead seemed to twist and turn back on itself, a maze designed to trap us. Yet we pressed on, driven by a sense of duty and a need to uncover the truth behind the explosion that had brought us here. Each corner we turned, every chamber we entered, brought new surprises and dangers, yet we pressed on with the tenacity and resolve that defined our unit. The deeper we ventured into the cavern, the more bizarre and unsettling the environment became. Each step took us further away from the world we knew, into a realm that defied explanation. The flora and fauna were unlike anything I had ever seen, mutated, twisted forms that seemed to be the products of a nightmarish imagination. Plants glowed with an unnatural luminescence, and creatures moved in the shadows with fluid, almost ethereal grace. It was a landscape that felt alive, as though the very ground we walked on was aware of our presence. As we progressed, I documented everything with meticulous detail, capturing the strange beauty and underlying menace of our surroundings. The cavern walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting as though they were giant lungs. Fungi-like structures pulsed with an eerie rhythmic light, casting shadows that danced and flickered like living entities. There was an otherworldly hum in the air, a low, resonant vibration that reverberated through the rock and seemed to resonate within our very bones. Dr. Pavel Novikov, our expert on radiation and anomalies, was baffled by the findings. His instruments provided readings that were inconsistent with anything we had encountered before. The levels of radiation fluctuated unpredictably, spiking and falling with no discernible pattern. "This place is rewriting the rules of science," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. I could see the strain on his face, the challenge of confronting phenomena that seemed to exist outside the bounds of human understanding. The oppressive atmosphere took a psychological toll on the team. We were trained for high-stress environments, but this place was testing us in ways we hadn't anticipated. The air felt thick, leaden with an unseen weight that pressed down on our spirits. Lieutenant Sergei Kozlov, usually the first to crack a joke, was uncharacteristically quiet, his humor subdued by the strangeness of our surroundings. He seemed to sense, as we all did, that this was no ordinary mission, and that the risks went far beyond what we had anticipated. Corporal Yulia Zaitseva worked tirelessly to maintain communication with the surface. Her skill and sharp instincts were invaluable as interference and distortion began to plague our equipment. Despite her youth, she remained focused and determined, refusing to let the strange environment overwhelm her. However, I noticed the occasional flicker of doubt in her eyes, a momentary lapse where the enormity of our task seemed to weigh heavily upon her. Private Nikolai Morozov, with his keen eyesight, was our eyes in the dark. His ability to spot movement where others saw only shadows was crucial as we navigated the treacherous terrain. Yet even Nikolai was not immune to the effects of the cavern. He admitted to seeing things at the edges of his vision, shapes that moved with the fluidity of smoke, always just beyond the reach of our lights. "The shadows here are alive," he whispered one night, his voice barely audible over the hum of the cavern. We pushed on, despite the growing tension and uncertainty. The path twisted and turned back on itself, creating a labyrinthine maze that seemed designed to confound us. Yet, we were resolute, driven by a sense of duty, and a need to uncover the truth behind the explosion that had brought us here. Each corner we turned, every chamber we entered, brought new surprises and dangers, yet we pressed on with the tenacity and resolve that defined our unit. One day, we stumbled upon a large chamber filled with a tangle of pulsing, living growths. It was a sight both mesmerizing and terrifying. The walls were covered in a network of veins that throbbed with a steady pulse, as though the cavern itself had a heartbeat. The air was thick with a sense of anticipation, a feeling that something ancient and powerful was watching, waiting. We moved cautiously, aware that we were intruders in a place that operated under its own set of rules. As we explored the chamber, we encountered creatures that defied known biological classifications. They were unlike anything in the scientific literature, a grotesque blend of forms that hinted at a process of evolution, unbound by natural laws. Some creatures resembled insects but were much larger and moved with an unsettling intelligence. Others were plant-like, yet exhibited characteristics of animals, capable of movement and displaying predatory behavior. Faced with these unknowns, we adopted a defensive stance, weapons ready, but our real weapon was knowledge. Understanding what we were up against, I recorded every encounter, every flicker of movement, every shadow that seemed to breathe. It was clear that this place was alive, a sentient entity that challenged our understanding of life and existence. The sense of being watched grew stronger, a constant reminder that we were mere visitors in a world that existed beyond our comprehension. Our descent into the cavern led us deeper into a world that defied all logic and understanding. Each step took us further away from the familiar and closer to the heart of something ancient and unknowable. The air grew colder, and the pulsating light of the fungi cast eerie shadows on the walls, creating shapes that seemed to shift and change as we moved. The atmosphere was charged with an electric tension, an almost palpable anticipation that kept us all on edge. As we continued deeper into the cavern, the environment grew more surreal and challenging. The walls pulsed with energy, their colors shifting in rhythm with some unknown force. The bioluminescent substances that lined our path cast an otherworldly glow, creating an atmosphere that felt both beautiful and terrifying. It was as though we were traveling through a dream, a place where the boundaries between reality and imagination blurred and overlapped. Dr. Pavel Novikov was in a state of constant awe and confusion. His instruments picked up readings that were inconsistent and often incomprehensible, suggesting that the cavern operated under a different set of physical laws. He shared his theories with us, trying to make sense of the chaos, but his explanations only raised more questions. "This is beyond us," he confessed one evening, his voice tinged with both excitement and fear. "It's as if we're witnessing the birth of a new form of reality." The air in the cavern was thick with an unseen energy, a presence that seemed to watch and listen. We were not alone, and this feeling grew stronger with each step. It was then that we encountered the cosmic entity, a beam of pure thought and emotion, a presence that communicated without words. It revealed itself to us through visions and sensations, a flood of images and feelings that overwhelmed the senses and left us reeling. In the presence of the entity, time seemed to lose all meaning. Memories from my past, mingled with images of places I had never seen, landscapes of impossible beauty and terror. I felt as if I were standing on the edge of eternity, glimpsing a reality that stretched beyond the confines of the human mind. It was a moment of profound connection and alienation, a reminder of our insignificance in the grand scheme of the universe. The entity's influence was not limited to the mind. We began to experience physical changes, subtle at first, but growing more pronounced as time passed. It was as if the entity were reshaping us, adapting us to its environment. Our perceptions shifted, and our bodies responded to the entity's will. Lieutenant Sergei Kozlov was the first to show signs of transformation, his skin taking on a luminescent quality, his features becoming distorted and strange. Kozlov's mutation was a warning, a glimpse of what awaited us if we stayed in the entity's presence. Despite the fear that gripped us, there was a sense of wonder and awe, a recognition of the entity's power and beauty. It was a force of creation and destruction, a being that existed beyond the bounds of human understanding. We were in the presence of something ancient and primal, a cosmic force that shaped the fabric of reality itself. Our struggle was not only against the entity, but also against our own fear and disbelief. The entity communicated through emotions and thoughts, revealing its intentions and desires. It sought to transform us, to make us part of its world, and we fought against this with every ounce of our will. The battle was as much within as it was without, a struggle to maintain our sense of self in the face of an overwhelming presence. As we grappled with the entity, the cavern around us seemed to respond to its moods. The walls pulsed with light, and the air vibrated with an unearthly hum. It was as if the cavern itself were alive, a living organism that breathed and moved in rhythm with the entity's thoughts. We were trapped in a place where reality was malleable, a fluid construct that changed with each passing moment. Our encounter with the cosmic entity was a turning point, a moment that redefined our understanding of the world and our place in it. We were faced with the choice to embrace the entity's vision or to fight against it, to hold on to our humanity in the face of an existence that defied all logic and reason. It was a choice that would shape our journey and determine our fate in the days to come. The atmosphere in the cavern had changed dramatically after our encounter with the entity. It was as if the very air we breathed had become a part of the entity's will, manipulating our thoughts and emotions, testing our resolve. We were no longer just exploring an unknown environment. We were trapped in a living nightmare that challenged every instinct for survival. Panic and fear threatened to overwhelm us, but Captain Anna Sokolov's voice cut through the chaos, grounding us in the reality of our mission. "We need to move," she ordered, her voice steady and commanding. "Stay together and keep your wits about you. We have to find a way out." Her words were a lifeline, pulling us back from the edge of despair. Despite the fear that gnawed at our minds, we knew we had to act. The cavern was no longer just a physical space. It was a battlefield, and the entity was a formidable adversary. As we tried to retreat, the environment itself seemed to conspire against us. The paths we had previously traversed were now twisted and altered, as if the cavern were a living labyrinth designed to trap us. Shadows moved with a life of their own, and the walls pulsed with a sinister energy. Our path to safety was blocked at every turn, and the creatures that lurked in the darkness were relentless in their pursuit. Sergeant Mikhail Ivanov and Corporal Andrei Petrov worked tirelessly to maintain order among the team. They were a steady presence, their calm determination helping to keep panic at bay. But even their resolve was tested as the entity's whispers grew louder, filling our minds with visions of despair and hopelessness. It was as if the entity were feeding on our fear, drawing strength from our uncertainty and doubt. Private Olga Fedorova and Private Boris Kuznetsov faced the horrors with bravery, yet the constant stress took its toll on their minds and bodies. Olga, always so composed, began to show signs of cracking under the pressure. Her eyes darted nervously, and her hands trembled as she gripped her weapon tighter. Boris, once a steady force, was now haunted by the specters that danced at the edges of our vision, his face pale and drawn as he fought to maintain his composure. Desperation set in as we realized the entity's influence was growing stronger. Private Irina Smirnova and Private Oleg Vasiliev were not as fortunate. Irina, always so determined and fierce, became distant, her eyes glazed over as if she were seeing something beyond our reality. Oleg met a tragic fate, his mind overwhelmed by the entity's power. He became lost in the labyrinth of his thoughts, wandering off into the darkness, never to return. I found myself at the center of this maelstrom, my role as documentarian taking on new urgency. Every moment, every decision was recorded, a testament to our struggle against the unknown. Yet, as I captured these events, I felt the entity's presence closing in, a relentless force that sought to bend us to its will. It was a fight not just for survival, but for our very humanity. In a moment of clarity, Lieutenant Sergei Kozlov, despite his ongoing transformation, stepped forward with a plan. His dark humor had always been a shield against the fear, but now he used it to rally us, to remind us of who we were. "We're not going to let this thing win," he declared, a determined grin on his distorted face. "We've come this far, haven't we? Let's show this place what we're made of." Kozlov's sacrifice was an act of defiance, a final gesture to buy us time. With his characteristic bravado, he rigged an explosive to create a diversion, allowing the rest of us a chance to escape. His actions were a stark reminder of the cost of our mission and the lengths we would go to protect one another. As the explosion reverberated through the cavern, we seized the moment and made a desperate push towards the surface. With each step, the environment continued to shift, the path ahead constantly changing as the entity sought to ensnare us. But we were driven by a single purpose: to escape and warn the world of the cosmic threat we had uncovered. The journey was a battle of wills, a test of our endurance and determination. Yet even as the shadows closed in around us, we refused to give in to despair. We fought with every ounce of strength, determined to survive and share our story with the world beyond. The cavern seemed to breathe with anticipation as we pushed forward, our footsteps echoing off the pulsating walls. The explosion that Lieutenant Sergei Kozlov had set off bought us time, but the path ahead was still fraught with danger. The environment continued to shift, each turn revealing new horrors that tested our resolve. Despite the fear gnawing at the edges of my mind, I focused on the task at hand, documenting our struggle, capturing the moments that would define our fight against the entity. Our journey led us to a massive chamber, a place of unimaginable beauty and terror. The walls glowed with an ethereal light, casting shifting shadows that danced in time with an unheard rhythm. In the center of the chamber stood the cosmic entity, a presence that defied description. It was as if we were staring into the heart of the universe, a place where time and space lost all meaning. The entity revealed its true nature to us, a being of immense power and intelligence. It communicated through a barrage of emotions and thoughts, overwhelming us with its presence. Images flashed through my mind, glimpses of distant worlds and impossible landscapes, visions of creation and destruction intertwined in a cosmic dance. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and our own insignificance within it. As the entity's influence grew stronger, it began to transform the environment around us. The chamber shifted and warped, the walls pulsating with a life of their own. It was as if the cavern were a living organism, responding to the entity's will. The ground beneath our feet rippled like water, and the air shimmered with a strange, otherworldly energy. In the face of this overwhelming force, Captain Anna Sokolov stood resolute, her determination a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. "We can't let it win," she declared, her voice steady despite the fear that lurked beneath. Her leadership was a rallying cry, a reminder of our purpose and our mission. We were not just fighting for our survival, but for the survival of humanity itself. Lieutenant Sergei Kozlov, despite the grotesque transformations he had undergone, was a pillar of strength. His humor, though dark, was a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. "I've always wanted to be a part of something bigger," he joked, his voice tinged with defiance. His sacrifice had given us a chance, and we were determined to honor his memory by fighting back with everything we had. As the entity's power peaked, the environment became increasingly unstable. The chamber was a maelstrom of energy and light, a vortex of creation and destruction that threatened to consume us all. It was a battle of wills, a struggle to maintain our sense of self in the face of an overwhelming presence. Our minds were bombarded with images and emotions, a constant barrage that tested our resolve. In a moment of desperation, I reached for the recording device, my fingers trembling as I documented the unfolding chaos. Every detail, every sound, every flicker of light was captured, a testament to our struggle against the unknown. It was a fight for survival, a battle against the very forces of nature and existence itself. As the chamber reached a crescendo, the entity's influence began to wane. We were battered and bruised, our minds and bodies pushed to their limits, but we refused to give in. With a final burst of energy, we pushed forward, driven by the need to escape and share our story with the world beyond. The path ahead was uncertain, but we were united in our determination to survive. Together, we fought our way through the chaos, our minds focused on the goal of reaching the surface and warning others of the cosmic threat that lay hidden beneath the earth. When we finally emerged from the depths of the cavern, the world that greeted us was not the same one we had left behind. The landscape was transformed, as if the entity's influence had seeped through the cracks and reshaped everything in its path. As I looked around, a profound sense of disorientation settled over me. The familiar terrain of the Chernobyl exclusion zone was now an alien world, teeming with vibrant colors and mutated flora that defied logic and reason. The sky above us was a strange hue, an unnatural mix of colors that seemed to ripple like the surface of a pond. The air was thick with a shimmering energy, an echo of the entity's presence that lingered in the atmosphere. It was both beautiful and unsettling, a reminder of the power we had faced below the earth. As I took in the scene, I felt a deep sense of awe and dread. The world had changed, and we were the first witnesses to this new reality. Our team stood together, battered and exhausted but alive. Captain Anna Sokolov was the first to speak, her voice filled with determination and resolve. "We did it," she said, a hint of triumph in her eyes. "We made it out." Her words were a balm, a reminder that we had survived against all odds. Yet, beneath her calm exterior, I could see the toll the mission had taken. The shadows of what we had witnessed lingered in her gaze, a reflection of the challenges we had faced. As we regrouped, it became clear that the entity's influence had extended beyond the cavern. The mutated flora and fauna were not confined to the underground, but had spread throughout the exclusion zone. Trees glowed with an otherworldly light, and the ground was covered in strange, pulsating growths that defied explanation. It was a landscape that challenged our understanding of biology and evolution, a testament to the entity's power to reshape the world. Our first priority was to re-establish communication with the outside world. Corporal Yulia Zaitseva worked tirelessly to repair the damaged equipment, her skill and determination a testament to her resilience. Despite the interference that continued to plague our signals, she managed to establish a connection. "This is Spetsnaz Team Alpha," she transmitted, her voice steady and clear. "We have encountered an anomaly, requesting immediate extraction and quarantine protocols." The response was swift, yet the voices on the other end of the line were tinged with confusion and disbelief. The world we had emerged into was not the one we had left, and the people we spoke to struggled to comprehend the magnitude of our findings. It was as if the entity's influence had altered more than just the landscape. It had changed the very fabric of reality, leaving those outside the exclusion zone unable to fully grasp the scope of what had occurred. As we waited for extraction, I reviewed the recordings I had made during our journey. Each frame was a testament to our struggle, a record of the cosmic horror we had faced. The images captured the beauty and terror of the entity, the shifting landscapes, and impossible creatures that inhabited its world. It was a story that needed to be told, a warning of the power that lay beneath the earth. Our team was eventually extracted, but the world we returned to was forever changed. The Chernobyl anomalous zone, CAZ, became a focal point for scientific and military efforts, a place of mystery and danger that defied explanation. Our recordings were analyzed and studied, providing crucial insights into the nature of the entity and the changes it had wrought. For me, the journey was both a beginning and an end. The experiences we had endured were etched into my memory, a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the mysteries that lay beyond our understanding. As I reflected on our journey, I realized that the story we had uncovered was not just about survival, but about the enduring power of hope and determination in the face of the unknown. Dr. Marina Ivanova, a researcher at the Global Anomaly Research Institute, took a keen interest in our findings. Her work focused on understanding the entity and its influence on the world, a task that required patience and perseverance. As she studied the recordings, she uncovered new insights into the nature of the anomaly, piecing together the puzzle of its existence. In the end, our story became a beacon of understanding, a testament to the enduring power of human courage in the face of cosmic horror. The world had changed, but so had we, emerging from the depths with a new understanding of the universe and our place within it. We had faced the unknown and survived, and in doing so, had uncovered a story that would echo through time, a reminder of the mysteries that lay beneath the surface of the earth. Returning to the world beyond the cavern felt surreal, as if we had stepped into an entirely different existence. The world outside had not experienced the same cosmic upheaval as we had in the depths below, yet it was nonetheless transformed by our revelations. The Chernobyl anomalous zone, as it came to be known, became the epicenter of intense scientific and military interest. What we had encountered was no longer just a Spetsnaz operation. It had become a global phenomenon, demanding attention and study from all corners of the earth. The recordings I had taken were invaluable, not only as evidence but as a means of understanding what had happened. They provided the first glimpse into the altered reality beneath Chernobyl, showcasing the mutated flora and fauna, the warped physics, and the entity itself. Researchers, led by Dr. Marina Ivanova at the Global Anomaly Research Institute, pored over the data, trying to unravel the mysteries of the cosmic entity and its impact on our world. There was no denying the gravity of the situation. The entity represented a force that could reshape reality as we knew it. This realization sparked a global effort to contain and understand the anomaly. Military forces established a perimeter around the zone, enforcing a strict quarantine to prevent the spread of the entity's influence. Scientists from every discipline converged on the site, seeking to study the phenomena and develop strategies to combat the existential threat it posed. Despite the urgency and focus on containment, there was a palpable sense of wonder and curiosity. The entity had shown us glimpses of a universe far beyond our comprehension, revealing the vast potential of life and evolution. For all its terror, it also represented an opportunity for growth and understanding, a chance to expand our knowledge of the cosmos and our place within it. On a personal level, the experience left an indelible mark on me. The horrors and wonders I had witnessed had changed me in ways I was only beginning to understand. The memories of the cavern and the entity haunted my dreams, yet they also fueled a newfound determination to explore the unknown. I became more aware of the fragility of our world and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. The journey had taken a toll on all of us, both physically and psychologically. Our team had faced unimaginable challenges, and the scars we bore were not just physical. Yet in the midst of this, there was also a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose that bound us together. We had stood on the precipice of a new reality and emerged stronger for it, our experiences forging bonds that transcended the mission. As time passed, the anomaly continued to be a source of fascination and fear. New discoveries were made, each one adding a layer of complexity to our understanding of the entity and its influence. The mutated flora and fauna within the zone evolved, adapting to their altered environment in ways that defied traditional biology. It was a living testament to the power of the entity, a reminder of the potential for change and transformation. Dr. Ivanova's work at the Institute became the foundation for a new field of study, one that combined elements of physics, biology, and cosmology to explore the nature of the anomaly. Her dedication and insight were instrumental in unraveling the mysteries of the entity, and her findings sparked a global dialogue about the implications of such cosmic forces. Through her efforts, the recordings I had taken became a cornerstone of our understanding, a narrative that captured the essence of our encounter. In the end, our story became a part of history, a testament to the enduring power of human curiosity and resilience. The legacy of the anomaly was not just one of danger and fear, but also of hope and discovery. It reminded us of the vastness of the universe and the boundless potential for growth and understanding. Our journey had been one of survival and revelation, a testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of the unknown. As I reflected on our journey, I realized that the story we had uncovered was not just about the entity and its power, but about the choices we made and the courage we showed. It was a story of humanity's ability to confront the mysteries of the universe, to seek out new knowledge and understanding even in the darkest of places. In the end, our legacy was not just the story of the anomaly, but the story of our shared determination to face the unknown and emerge stronger for it.